One of the things I always notice this time of year is people start to get worried. I'll notice like a collective worry in the wedding filmmaking community. People who are like, are you not getting leads?
I think probably the biggest misconception is that if I do really good work and I put all of my emphasis into creating this artistic piece that's fantastic, that's just really well put together, that it will automatically make the phone ring. And that's not always the case, right?
It's like if a tree falls in the forest and no one's there to hear it, doesn't make a sound.
Exactly. That's a great way to say it, actually.
It's like, that's most people's business. It's
Yes.
the proverbial tree in the forest.
Yep.
Why you gonna try to get mad? Everybody wanna keep up. Don't you know I move too fast? I'ma zip right past. Drip all on my swag.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Wedding Film School show. We have another banger for you guys today. I'm here again with Mr. Jason McCutcheon. What's up, Jay?
How was your week?
My week has been good. A couple weddings this weekend in actually really cold temperatures.
It was
like,
so cold.
yeah.
I shot on
You
Saturday.
were in Boston.
Yeah, it was like 6 degrees where I was.
Yeah. I was in upstate Vermont, which it was -8 degrees up there. I was doing a photo wedding in the mountains, and yeah, it was brutal. Got really good images though. The couple was native Vermonters, so they were down.
like, whatever.
Yeah, they're like, this is Saturday.
We did a first look, and the groom's like, okay, all right,
Yeah.
I'm done.
Those whiny city Boston people.
I had a good weekend as well. Beautiful wedding, but yeah. So I'm excited about being here today because we're talking about a topic I really love.
Well, I think it's a topic that is really important for people right now that we are in the middle of booking season. Today we're going to be talking about generating more leads and ultimately generating more bookings for your wedding film business.
Really specifically, we're talking about different market segments too.
Right.
Because when we think about lead generation, and especially in the wedding space, there's really some very distinct markets, and every single one has a different approach. So we're going to kind of get into that today. But before we do that, I wanted to let you guys know, if you are planning going to Vegas, you should come and hang out with us because we're going to be there. But also, we have 2 classes that we're going to be teaching. One about handheld filmmaking basics. This is a hands-on thing. Me, Bobby.
You didn't say WPPI.
Yeah, I did.
You said if you're going to be hanging out with us in Vegas.
Yeah, sorry. But before we get started, I wanted to talk to you guys about something that's going on in Vegas coming up in the very end of February, the 28th, all the way to the 3rd of March, which is WPPI. If you've never been, it's a huge conference for filmmakers and mainly photographers, but they're all in the wedding space for the most part. Lots of classes, cool galas, hangouts, all this stuff. Really a cool show that you can go check out with all kinds of gear and stuff. But we're going to be there hanging out. So, of course, come hang out with us. And also, we are going to be teaching 2 classes, a photo walk, which is handheld filmmaking basics. Bobby, Jared, and I are going to be kind of showing you some tips for making films handheld, which is all the rage, some do's and some don'ts, and some ways that you can shoot handheld that I think, especially if you're new to it, I think it's really good. But even if maybe you can teach a few old dogs some new tricks. And then, of course, the thing that Jared and I love, we're talking about sustainable systems for your business and how you can use systems and build around that to really actually make your business a lot more sustainable. So if you're interested, head over to weddingfilm.school/WPPI. There's a little promo code on there. And I really, really want to hang out with you. We're also going to be putting on an exclusive event for wedding filmmakers while we're there. And so if you sign up, definitely keep your ears peeled because we're going to be promoting that event, and it's going to be very limited tickets. They are going to be free, but it's going to be limited attendance, so we want to see you there. So that's my promotion. That's what we got going. Head over weddingfilm.school/WPPI and sign up today.
Cool. Yeah, and I'll just mention before we really hop into the episode, WPPI is awesome. It's a lot of fun. It's an opportunity for you to meet some of maybe your idols in the wedding film kind of community. Plenty of people.
Jordan Bunge is my idol.
Yeah, of course. A lot of people usually show up for, I think, the wedding film competition. which is really fun. I think the first couple of years we went, I learned a lot, and it's just a place where you can get a source of inspiration, and then also just hang out. It's a great time for you to meet other photographers, potentially expand your business if you're looking to get into some destination work, and have some people who are going to be teaching there. Just kind of elevating your business in general. I think it's a great way to do that. And the Wedding Film School Speakeasy is a ton of fun. Like, we did that last year.
It was a blast.
And it was honestly the highlight of the trip for me, like meeting people that listened to the show and just wanted to come
And you could submit your film.
Yep.
Yeah, I think there's probably still time.
Yep.
So submit your film. I'm going to be a judge this year in the film competition, so
Yep.
I will be roasting you.
There's probably by the time this airs, there's a couple days to submit your film. So do that. It has to be under 5 minutes. It can't have logos in it, so you might have to do a
Go
little
read
bit
the
of work.
rules.
Go read the rules. But definitely worth checking out and just getting your film seen. I think it's like $75 to submit.
Yeah, it's cheap.
But good news again is the Wedding Film School Speakeasy is free $99. So show up, sign up when we announce the details on that. So
Awesome. So let's talk about our topic today. So one of the things I always notice this time of year is people start to get worried. I'll notice like a collective worry in the wedding filmmaking community. People who are like, are you not getting leads? I'm not getting leads. I'm getting leads. And like everyone's in all these different places and people are nervous. And for good reason. I think it's some crazy amount of the percentage of weddings get booked from like January to February. Like I think everywhere in the nation, this is booking season in the United States, at least, right after Christmas. I know for us, that's often the case. January, February, we book tons of weddings. So I just figured it'd be a good time to talk about sales and marketing and really why some people might not be seeing the sales, marketing, leads results that they might be wanting, some of the things that we've experienced, and then really how we kind of see selling and marketing weddings. And we think it's important for you guys to know, like we've talked about a couple times on the show, we have 3 different brands that market to 3 different segments of the market or of the wedding world. We have Merriment Films, which is, I would call, high access brand. It's probably $2,500 average sale. And then we have Stop Go Love, which is probably $5,200 average sale, maybe more now, I'm not sure. And then we have Huxley Film, which is kind of just getting going, and that's probably close to averaging $10,000 on an average sale. And so we have a little experience. We're not infinitely successful at them all, but of marketing to a lot of different segments. Plus, we grew our own brand from nothing. So kind of we wanted to talk to you guys about based on our experience, but also just some of the theories I think that have helped us grow our companies and book consistently. So yeah. And the reason why I think we are picking this topic to talk about today, because I think it is the season for it, as Jay mentioned, and that collective worry is real. No matter what stage of your film career you're in, like I talk to people who are charging $8,000 a wedding, $10,000 a wedding, and they're like, my year isn't as crazy as I thought it would be, all the way down to people charging $1,500 and being like, the phone is not ringing at all. Like, and then you look at their work and you're like, they're really good. Yeah.
Why isn't this working for them?
What do you think one of the biggest misconceptions those people might have?
Right. I think probably the biggest misconception is that if I do really good work and I put all of my emphasis into creating this artistic piece that's fantastic, that's just really well put together, that it will automatically make the phone ring. And that's not always the case, right?
Yeah, it's pretty much doesn't actually. It's like if a tree falls in the forest and no one's there to hear it, doesn't make a sound.
Exactly. That's a great way to say it, actually.
It's like that's most people's business. It's the proverbial tree in the forest.
Yep.
Falling down, making no impact, doesn't matter.
Right.
Because no one's watching it. And so I think we have an aversion as creatives to just really basic marketing. Like most people, they think it's like a dirty word. Lead generation, sales, like many of you guys hate those parts of your business. And I get it. I understand where they're coming from, but it is interesting when you see so many people when it comes to their business and what they're doing, like are seemingly trapped. Like their business is in like quicksand. They've been selling the same amount of weddings forever, and every year they do the same thing. And every time, Jared, I end up asking them, what are you doing? Their answer is basically, oh, it's all referrals. That's, to me, the biggest misconception people have, is that a lot of referrals is a really good thing, which, I mean, it is, like, that's important. If no one who you work with previously refers you, that's bad. It means you sucked.
Yeah.
You either did a bad job or they hated working with you. But that being said, if that represents 80% of your bookings are off referrals, I don't know, that scares me. I would not like that as a business. And a lot of people do. To me, it's like the good work misconception and the I don't need anything about referrals misconception are like the two like kisses of death. Because what happens with those is when the leads dry up, they go like that. By the way, if you're watching this on the members only YouTube, our lighting, we went dark and moody today.
Yeah, we're kind of having fun. While our studio's under construction, we're having fun with how wonky our setup is, and literally how like they're painting in here tomorrow. So we were like, okay, we need it to be clear, but we also need to record a podcast. So we'll just set something up really quick. So we went with something really...
2 spotlights on each of our faces.
I would say today's setup is pretty avant-garde. So
yeah. It's
if
totally
you're
worth
watching-
the YouTube subscription.
Yeah.
So head over there, become a member of the Wedding Film School channel. But yeah, I think those are the 2 big misconceptions I see.
Well, yeah, diversity is always a good thing, right? When it comes to generating leads for your business. And I would say the same thing with if you are just booking all of your weddings through Instagram or through, the Knot even, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Don't, build your business off of a rented channel, because the Knot could dry up in no time. They could just change some algorithm and your leads are all gone.
Or someone better
overnight.
than you or pays more attention to their profile or
Gotcha.
who knows, anything.
Exactly. So diversity is always a good thing. So I think that's a good place for us to kind of hop into maybe some of where our leads come from.
Yeah. So why don't we what we're going to do, because we can only speak about our business, right? So our business is what it is. So if you think it's unrelatable, then sorry. Just imagine that this is your whole year, our 1 month. Yeah. But it is what it is. But we're not doing it to brag. I don't mind bragging, by the way, because I think we do a good job. So if you're offended by bragging, then sorry. But what I am trying to do is just communicate with realistic, real numbers.
Right. And the thing I like about this is we have there's a lot of data, right?
Yes, good.
Really good data. And so, it's not just, we're not just flash in the pan, like, hey, we did a lot this month. Like our numbers are pretty consistent, even over
just book
COVID.
one $20,000 wedding.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Like our numbers are very consistent year over year as far as how many weddings we're typically booking. COVID kind of threw us a little bit of a screwball, but we're figuring out kind of what numbers are so that we can project and all these things that are pretty great. But we have a good data source and good kind of base on what we're doing. So
why don't we go through our numbers just to get this conversation started, because I think it's important to just get some data behind what we're talking about. And what I like about our numbers, even though I think you might hear it and go, oh, that's really big. Some of our 1 months are the size of someone's entire year. And I think in terms of concepts, that's a good place to look, because what you're going to see is some of the similar concepts working themselves out and like high speed. So why don't we talk about January 2022 so far for us? And this is from the very beginning of January 2022, guys. This is New Year's Day we're recording this on January 19th, 2022. Since the beginning of the month, we've had 128 leads. That is people straight up on our website that filled out the form. This doesn't include people that reached out on the Knot. There's some overlap there. But people that reach out on the Knot, people that reach out on WeddingWire or Zola or Left Story CV or all these other sources that you can consider like a net. I think in general, after considering direct emails even from wedding planners, we're probably looking at 140 leads since the very beginning of the month. Yep. And so what we like to look at when we look at our leads is really, and everyone should be looking at these couple things. when you first get a lead, first of all, where is it from?
Yeah.
And if you're not tracking that, turn this off. You don't need to listen anymore. Just start doing that for a month, and then we can talk. Because if you're not tracking your lead sources, you are not doing like the basic bare minimum to serve your business. You cannot treat every single lead source the same. You might have the same exact sales script, but you got to know, like, you should expect at least different results from each lead source. So we have a couple lead sources.
You're not going to be able to do anything as far as projecting, trying to solve this problem of getting more leads. Like if you're like sitting there and you're like, the phone won't ring, like, and no one's reaching out, but you haven't kept track of the people who have reached out, and like, hey, who are the people reaching out that usually are successful, and I end up booking? Who are the people that are reaching out that just disappear right away? Keeping track of those kinds of people, like, you're not doing your business any service. Like, you're not taking your leads that seriously.
You're not doing enough to ever fix the problem, but you need to. Right. So in terms of our lead sources, we have a couple. I'll get specific. We have the Wedding Wire, which is not many, but we have Wedding Wire. We have vendor referrals. We have Unknown, which is a sucky category, but it does happen sometimes, where they just refuse to answer the question. The Knot, we have our website. We have Other, which I don't know what that is. We have Instagram. We have Google. We have Facebook. We have Client Referral. We've gotten leads from every single one of those sources this month, which is a lot. Like, most people probably have one or two lead sources.
Yep. And I think it is important to not just keep track of like, oh, this is a vendor referral versus a client referral versus paid marketing, like, but really dive deep. That's how you're going to find if your marketing is working for you in specific areas.
Yeah, you want to be as granular as you possibly can.
Keep track of these
very
things.
Specific. So we have, in terms of the breakdown, I would like 32 vendor referrals. Out of our Unknown category, which always bothers me. Every time it's like Unknown, I'm like, how can I convince them? How can I convince them to tell me where they came from? And they won't always. We have 20 of those. 27, The Knot. One person from our website. So those of you for SEO, not looking so good for you guys.
Well, that's also of course they found us on our website. So they're filling it out. It's just, it's null to me.
Yeah, it could be Google. Who knows? 4 Other, which could be like Zola or, Love Stories TV or any of the other places. 14 Instagram, which I'm always surprised that anyone finds us on Instagram based on how crappy of a job we do on there. But I guess we do a good job.
Right. And a lot of these are going to be combinations. Like they find you in one spot and then they see you in another spot and they're just going to
say we are not assuming they just
Instagram.
Only found you there. We're assuming they saw us at like 3 or 4 places. This is what they chose to answer that made the biggest impact on them. Google, we have 15. Facebook, we have 2. Client referral, and this is what I think is interesting, and this is what I ended here because I wanted to point out. Client referral is 10. Why did I say you can't treat them all the same? I said that because when I look at Facebook, I see 2 Facebook leads. I don't expect to book either of those. I would expect to need like 20 Facebook leads to book a Facebook lead. Right?
Right.
Client referrals, I bet we client referrals, I bet we book half of those.
Right.
Right. Vendor referrals, I bet we book half of those.
Yep.
Right. Every lead source is not created equal. And some people might look and go like, well, I only want to be on the best ones. So I guess I would say this, Jared. Why is it so important to have so many, at least for us, to have so many lead sources? You're on the phone with all these people. Why do you think it works to our advantage to have so many people coming from so many different places?
Right. And you're coming from the perspective of like, if someone's like, hey, if vendor referrals are a much higher close rate,
yep,
and client referrals are why don't I just go for all of that? Why do I even need marketing? Which is a lot of people's mentality, right?
Yeah.
You're asking why we view actual marketing and kind of pay for
why am I willing
play.
To deal with a 10% close rate and a 20% close rate when I know I got a 50% close rate?
So this is what I would say is your marketing snowballs into vendor referrals and client referrals.
Yes.
So you have to have that fresh meat. Like, that's great. Vendor referrals are great if you shoot a film for a member of Alpha Kappa Bravo.
Yeah. From whatever your college is.
Yeah. Great. But eventually that dries up, right? Everyone gets married or divorced and you know, and you know, those are going to dry out eventually. Or you marry like the brother and then the two sisters, and then there's no one else to get married, so you're completely dried out there.
Yeah, it's the same thing that happens to people who join a MLM and they're trying to sell everyone Lululemon pants or whatever the crap.
Right.
It's like eventually you're out of people to sell dumb knives to.
You need the fresh meat, and to me, you know, spending a little bit of money on marketing is going to get you those fresh leads. We're going to dive into like, you know, a bunch of different kind of tiers of weddings and a bunch of different markets, because I do think it becomes, you know, kind of different who you're trying to like go get. But I think we've always seen that as like, we need fresh, you know, people coming in so we can get the referrals from them eventually. And so I do think, yeah, I'm looking at it right now. We had, like you mentioned, vendor referrals were 32, and then client referrals were 10. And that brings us to 42 out of 140 leads that are, you know, it's probably a little bit higher. Let's just say 50 of our, you know, leads this last month of the 140 were referrals. That's a third. Our booking rate on those referrals is probably like 60, 70%.
Oh, it's really high.
So way higher. So like you said, you know, not all these kind of leads are seen as, you know, as equal. But I think you just have to have that fresh meat coming
think of
in.
it this way. A person who we get from the knot becomes a referral.
Exactly. That's
you
what
might end up working with a planner you've never worked with. If it's like, you know, it's like the key with networking is getting to know people that you haven't previously known. Mm-hmm. You have to always be expanding your professional network.
Right.
You have to be expanding it with clients and with people you work with.
Yeah.
And the best way to do it, the easiest way to do it, especially in most markets, until you get to that ultra luxury market,
right,
it's perfectly fine to be, you can work in some really great weddings from the knot.
Right. And again, we're going to dive into kind of that progression of like, you know, you see a lot of people as they keep on, you know, upgrading their gear and upgrading their game, they start charging more, they start doing less weddings. I think that's kind of a natural progression for a lot of filmmakers. Like, hey, I used to do 30 weddings at $2,500. Now I'm doing 10 weddings at 10 grand. Like, great, awesome. However, you got to know that person, if you're charging 10 grand, you're probably not just getting client referrals. You probably just have a relationship.
A lot of people have very short memories, I think,
right,
when they're telling other people they should raise their prices.
Right. If
like,
you just raise your prices without those relationships, you know, you're not going to go anywhere.
You have to have enough people in your pipeline that a lot of them can say no. Right. And I'll make an example of it. Right now we will book more, but out of those 150 people, I think we've only booked 2 of them.
Right now?
Yes, right now. Now we'll book a lot of them.
Because typically it takes about a month, I think, for a person to book. Like I actually talked to a person, they reached out last week. We talked on Monday. I sent them information. They decided they wanted to book today. They asked for a contract. They signed today. Like, but that's like a week and a half from opening, you know, the project to closing them. A week and a half, and that was fast. That's a fast
time to
turnaround.
close is long, but it's also like, well, out of those 127, I would expect maximum to book 20.
Probably 20. Yeah. And again, we took our prices off the website recently, so that just means we get a lot more people reaching out because they like the work, which is a good sign. But then they see the prices and they're like, nope, it's, you know, I can't afford $6,000, which is totally understandable. So yeah, I think you definitely need to kind of consider, your approach there for sure.
Yeah. So the other thing, what I want to talk about now is 4 real, like, and I guess there's 5, but one of them we're kind of going to be like, meh.
Yeah.
4 real types of leads that you're probably dealing with, and maybe how they differ. And I'll get the one that we're not going to talk about out of the way, and not because we think it's not valid, but because in our opinion we actually haven't had a ton of experience with it, which is 1,500 sub that market.
Right.
If you have that lead that's coming in who's looking to spend under $1,500.
And all of these weddings, by the way, I think you can categorize them as not just how much they're willing to spend on a videographer, but how much money they're spending on the wedding overall. Generally, what we've found is that most people are going to spend about 5% of their budget on a wedding filmmaker, right?
We actually think more about the total spend of weddings than we do about their spend on us.
Exactly.
Because it's more interesting to me to be at a high-priced wedding than even to get paid a lot. Because if I'm at a high-priced wedding with a high-priced wedding planner, there are more leads to come.
Yep.
And I'm reliably generating business for myself. But anyway, these 4 groups of people, one of them, like I said, is this group of people.
Sub
Pretty much
1,500.
all B2C, which is business to customer sales. It's always the bride or the groom reaching out directly, probably. They probably don't have a planner. Maybe they have a day of coordinator, like a campground or wherever they're getting married. We don't have a lot of experience with those weddings.
I think a lot of these people are coming from Craigslist, are coming from potentially like free listings on the Knot and Wedding Wire, Thumbtack. Like these are your brides, your sub 1,500 brides, which is a huge market, by the way.
Big market. If I can figure out a way to do it efficiently, you can make bank off those
People that are looking to essentially spend, $10,000 on their wedding, $15,000 on their wedding, which is not laughable, by the way, but
No.
it's really, a lot of them aren't even going to get a wedding filmmaker.
No. The most of them don't.
Like,
Like wedding films are the luxury to
Right.
them. But we don't have a lot of experience there. That is a market.
Yep.
If you're doing great in that market, awesome.
Yep.
I think where we start to pick up some experience is like people who are looking to spend $2,000 plus,
Yep.
$2,000 to maybe $4,000, $2,000 to $3,500, depending on where you live in your region, and like those folks, that's the type of client that we'll talk about first.
Yeah, that's it. This is going to be your country club ballroom wedding, right?
Yeah,
Like
or
that.
barn wedding, depending on where you live.
Sure.
These are weddings where you'll probably talk to the groom or the bride directly. They probably won't have a planner. They may have a day of coordinator from the venue. You will either get a lead, probably you'll be from the planner. Maybe the lead is from a venue where like it's like a golf club you work at a lot, or a campground, or a place that, these are weddings that are typically, you're probably looking at like $20,000 max spend for the entire event.
I would say where we are, it's even 30, 35.
Yeah, 32 is our average in
Yeah.
our area.
Yeah.
We're a very high priced
This
area, though.
is your average kind of normal-ish wedding.
Yes, yes, and they can actually be very nice, but you're just not working with the full team, and there's not all the crazy decor, and you end up having to talk directly to a customer for the most part. We get a solid amount of these, Jared. In your opinion, are we closing a lot of these, or are these the people that are typically moving into Merriment Films?
Yeah, that's our Merriment film, where we kind of rack up a lot of work, is going to be, really straightforward. Like we're talking to the bride and groom. They're filling out all the information. We're not talking to a wedding planner at all. Pretty straightforward storyline. Like they're not looking to have you film the day before or do really a lot of things creative. It's just straightforward event coverage that make it, you're going to make it look pretty.
Yeah, and they're probably more likely to ask you for like, can you do an interview, or can you do a long edit, or
sure.
like the things that are more like traditional and old school when it comes to weddings. The other thing I was going to ask you is, so if you haven't sold a lot of planners, you're listening to this and you haven't worked with planners a lot, sometimes these sales can be remarkably easy. Like it can literally be like, oh, I need you for this date. Can you do it? And like literally you don't talk to the client, you just sell it. These types of weddings that we're talking about here are very different. So when you're selling to this client, tell us a little bit about kind of how does this sales cycle, like, first of all, where are these couples coming from? How are they finding you? Is it different than maybe some of these other people? And then what's that sales process like?
Yeah, sure. I think a lot of these people are going to be some pay to play. They're going to potentially find you on Instagram, or maybe you have like a Knot profile that you pay for. I find that those people want to spend a little bit of money. They know they don't want someone from Craigslist. So they know they're going to have to spend a little bit of money, but maybe they're not expecting to spend $4,000, even $3,000.
Yeah.
So you go into these conversations having to do a little bit of selling, having to say, no, I don't offer a discount because your mom's a nurse. No, like they're just
My great
price
grandmother was in
shopping.
Pearl Harbor.
Yeah. They're going to be price shopping, and you should expect them to be price
Price
shopping.
is important to this group of people.
Yes.
and I don't like calling them budget brides, because if you're spending like $2,500 on a piece of art, like
No weddings are budget
It's not
anymore.
budget.
It's not. There's not
but
a budget bride.
they aren't they're not luxury people who literally are just spending money.
Right.
They want the money to make sure it's important for them that their investment goes as far as possible.
Right.
That I find.
Yep.
I also find that these people are a little more high maintenance often, because they are nervous about the money. They've never spent this much money. They
Yep.
sometimes are stretching on 20 other things in the wedding. They're paying for it all by themselves. They don't have daddy's bank account just opened up to them. So like the empathy side is important on our end, which is like trying to understand where they're coming from and not treating them like peons
Right.
who
Right.
can barely afford it, but trying to figure out how, this is what I can do for you, is the language we use a lot.
Right.
We try not to say no. We try to always speak in positive terms.
So this is I think the trap when you're trying to get leads in this kind of country club, ballroom wedding group and event, is a lot of people here are like, hey, I'm not making that much money shooting these weddings. I'm maybe making $2,000, and I have 10 weddings in the year. That's like $20,000 in the year that I'm collecting. I don't have enough money. I have to buy camera equipment, all this stuff. I don't have money for, pay to play marketing, when really like this group is probably the most successful in that pay to play market. So I think a lot of people are like, maybe I have a Google ad out there or like a free listing on the Knot. I would say if you're trying to get leads in this group and you're maybe like $1,500 and you're trying to get, yourself. And by the way, I would say you should be trying to get 30 to 40 weddings if you're in this, kind of tier.
If you're in this tier,
you should just be trying to work your ass off. Like you should be killing yourself. Like you should be editing, because this is where you're going to get good. You're going to learn how to deal with people. You're going to have to deal with a bunch of different types of scenarios and circumstances. You are going to have to.
They're real events, so they
yourself
actually
up.
have schedules. They're not like
Right.
people in the backyard drinking beers.
Right.
Like you might work with some real photographers along the way here. You're going to work with. It is important, and to treat it like, and it's not just a training ground for some of you. Like you could start a business doing 200 of these.
Right.
In my opinion, this market is the easiest market to get leads for.
Right.
It's kind of hard to sell, and if you stay too long and you want to
Sure.
get out, it might be a little bit of a trap.
Yep.
But
if you have good work and it's up on your website, you have a presentable website, and you're doing a little bit of paid marketing, you'll get leads here. You will get a lot of leads here. And if you have a good social media account,
because
that people
price
can
is so
link to.
important to these people, they're asking lots of vendors.
Yep.
And so I will say this, the other thing just with this group is educating them on not so much why they want a wedding film. You can do that, of course, but why you are better than your competition is really important, because they're making a lot of decisions because they're either deciding like, oh, I'm going to stretch and buy you, or they're like picking between two similar priced people. So they want to know like
The Craigslist guy with the DV camera,
or
the
even just
Sony
two
DV.
local guys that are all charging $2,000. Like it's not just like they don't have a trusted advisor like a wedding planner can say this person's great to work with.
Yep.
So they need to know like, what am I going to get out of you? So deliverables are really important. If you're in this market and you can throw something in, it makes a big difference.
Yep.
So the next market that we always talk about is the high end market. And this, first of all, it's very dependent on where you live. For us, I would say it's like $4,000 plus
as far as
in New England.
Right. It's probably your wedding that's $150,000 to $200,000 weddings. Would you say?
I would say
100,000
even
weddings?
$80,000.
80,000?
Like 80,000, but like, it can go from 80,000 to $250,000 and you're in the same customer base.
Sure. Yep.
Same people. And we're talking like professionals.
Yeah.
Doctors, lawyers, people with college educated people. You might get some borderline luxury weddings in this market. You're going to be doing probably a lot of planner weddings. I would say for us, it's mostly planner weddings and what we're doing, but a lot of weddings that are not planners. A lot of them that have coordinators from the events. Almost nothing we're shooting in this part of the market doesn't have anyone to help the bride and groom with the schedule and the day and helping them just put on the day. So you're dealing with people who maybe are a little more focused on themselves during the day and not focused on like, oh, I got to stop. I got to go make sure this thing's running the way those other weddings can be.
I would actually say this range, you're probably looking at 50% wedding planner, 50% wedding coordinator, / wedding planner potentially. But like, I would say, yeah, you're not even in that, you're breaking into the wedding planner market, which is a good place to be. But you can still get a lot of work by just doing straight B2C. People that are talking to the venue, and the venue can, relay people your way.
Yeah, you're talking high-end venues, whether it be 5-star hotels,
Right.
or like places for us, it's like certain places in the Cape or Newport, and then high-end planners who maybe are looking for, my couple doesn't want to spend $20,000 on booking this super high-end filmmaker, but they want to film. Mm-hmm. So you're a trusted, vendor of a high-end planner, which is a great place to be because they have all kinds of leads. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about this customer a little bit. I think you're really talking to two customers primarily in this market. You're having, the bride or the bride's family or groom, but usually bride, or the planner directly. I think less so the planner here, even though the planner might initially contact you, you're eventually going to have to go through the couple. But you do go directly through there are plenty of times where a planner will reach out and say, do you have this day open? Send me a contract.
Yep.
That happens a lot in this market too, but mainly it's a traditional sales cycle. So you're getting on the phone with this bride, Jared, or groom, or both, I guess, and you're getting on the phone with them. What is interesting, like when you're talking to this person, what's most important to this person versus, we talked about price and deliverables at the other market. What are these people, what's important to them?
Yeah, I think that they're going to like you. I think you're going to make their life easier. It's going to be pretty turnkey. It's going to be, price is still important to people, I think. But the good thing about this kind of market is it's upsellable. Is that a word?
There's more money there than they even present.
There's
sometimes.
more money. So if you do maybe a little bit of education, but maybe like vision casting and maybe you can see a lot of upsells here, which is great. So I think a la carte menu is pretty valuable in this kind of marketplace where you can be like, here are our packages, here's our a la carte menu. So if you want to add, you can add on later, you can add on before the wedding. Like, I think that's kind of a place that you can be from a sales cycle and sales perspective. But yeah, those people are just looking for someone who's professional, who does a good job, who's honestly not going to bother them a whole lot.
Yeah, I feel like this 4 to 8 realm, maybe 4 to 10, which seems like a big number, but it is really the same type of person.
Yep.
This person is the most interested in, do I like your vibe? Mm-hmm. Then the other people, maybe they want to be close friends with you or whatever, but ultimately if you're too expensive, they're not going to buy you. These folks might make a decision based on like, oh, I really enjoyed Jared on the phone when I'm choosing between two people, and like they might pick you at $6 versus someone else at $4,500 just because they like your vibe and they felt like you were understanding where they were coming from. Versus, and even at the high end in the luxury market, there are times you don't even talk to the couple at all. Yeah. So I feel like this is, if you're like a person who really does well on the phone, really does well with like personal kind of relationship building, especially with the client, you might love this market. This might be your sweet spot. Yep. And there's good money to be had here.
Yep. So the leads here are probably going to be a mix. They're probably going to be, a little bit of a vendor referral. I think there's a little bit of pay to play here. But a good referral goes a lot longer in this kind of price range.
By pay to play, you mean a little bit of paid leads.
A little bit of paid leads, yeah.
And by that, we mean paid not
paid
profiles, maybe paying for a boosted post on Facebook.
Right.
Like
you're going to see some return there, but for the most part, the word of the people that they've already hired, like you got to remember, like we're kind of lower on the totem pole as wedding filmmakers. We're after the venue, we're after the caterer, usually right around the band, but we're after the photographer.
We're picking the meat off the bones, like,
as Jay likes to say, we're the hyenas.
We are the vultures, the hyenas, we're scavengers.
But here the vendor referral, the client referrals are going to go a lot longer. So really kind of leaning into that world a little bit more, I think is valuable.
It's interesting because there's like the trusted advisor side of the planner, and then there's also like, do I like this person? Like, if you say something like, oh, we're going to stay out of your way.
Right.
Oh, wow, I don't want this person to be bothering me. I want this experience versus the other person who's like, I want these deliverables. The budget person's all about like how many films they get and how long they are and how much they cost. This person is a lot more about experience and relationship.
Yep. And so let's dive into the last market before we dive in, because I do want to do a moment where we talk through like if we were in all of these markets starting out, what would we do?
So luxury, first of all, we'll be totally disclosed, like full disclosure. I don't have tons of experience here. We're new to the market. We're starting to experience it in new ways. But regardless, you know.
And by that, you'd probably say like we probably have 4 to 5 weddings that will be charging an average of like $10,000 this year, right? Yeah. So that's a good place to be. I'm pretty happy with it, and I'm really thrilled with the work.
Well, and some of these are planners that we work with at other weddings,
right?
So like a similar sales cycle,
right? I just got an email from a planner who I know is a really high-end luxury planner out of New York City. Does a lot of weddings up here in New England. I know that they have their team for their luxury weddings that they'll hire out for $10,000, $15,000, $20,000. I just got an email from her, and she was like, hey, this is a perfect fit for Stop, Go, Love. And I was like, great. I know what that means. The luxury person is either booked or this couple doesn't want to spend $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 on a wedding film, but my Stop, Go, Love product is perfect for them. We're the only kind of turnkey, super easy
the high-end planners trust.
High-end planner trust, yes. Yeah. So this luxury world,
$250,000 plus weddings, total spend.
Right.
I'll give you a very quick cheat sheet to know if you're at a luxury wedding. If they have a planner and a designer.
Not exclusively, but
often.
Yeah.
If the planner is the designer, it's not usually a luxury wedding. Usually that person it can be. There are people that specialize, but in general, like it's all about like the amount of people they're hiring and the amount of like these epic florals and all this crazy stuff that goes into it. This market is almost exclusively planner driven, and I'll give you an example. We had a person reach out we did this crazy New Year's Eve wedding for Huxley Film, and person reached out, loved the film. It was a couple, and it was interesting. I was like, oh, really weird. This person, high-end luxury wedding, works with a very well-established high-end DC area luxury planner. We knew that this, and a couple straight up said it, like, hey, they wanted us to work with their people, but we really wanted to find some people. So they're definitely unique. But even they said, we have to have a phone call where you meet our planner before we can book you.
Yeah.
Like whether or not the planner gets the lead, like sends you the lead, or whether or not the couple does, the planner is the one who says, I can and will work with this person.
They're the kingmaker.
Yeah, they put the stamp of approval on the thing. And so that is a really different experience for a lot of people. Like I was at a wedding the other day. I love the planner, sweet lady, told me not to talk to the client. And if you don't like that, you probably won't like luxury weddings.
Well, that's one thing we learned at Engage is, a lot of times these planners, they do not want you even having interaction with the couple at all. And that's something that you'll come and find and be like, well, maybe I don't even want to get into that market.
And some of their couples want it that way.
Yeah, exactly. That's why they hire the planners, so that they don't have to talk to you. And that's, if you're getting paid $15,000, $20,000, like that is totally fine by me. Like that in a lot of ways makes it easier, right? But it all depends on the product you want to make.
So we're not experts here, but our experience is pretty much it's planner driven, and you can build yourself into this market by building your professional contacts. And so if you're wanting to be in the luxury market, you either need to be so amazing that you can just skip all this, which some of you are, and if you are, awesome. If you just happen to get some crazy Cabo wedding and you literally kill it, you do this amazing job, and then you get lucky and the right person sees you. I'm not saying all these things are just, this is how it always goes. What I am saying is I wouldn't want to have to be as good as like Films by Stanton and shoot this crazy film in Iceland and have to compete with him on that. because it's a great film. I don't know. He gets a cool couple willing to be cool.
Should we talk about elopement type of weddings? I think that's like its own island.
It's its own island. And honestly, like the elopement people, I'm not convinced elopement couples have tons of money or that they're a reliable market you can build around. Like, yeah, there's probably some hipster couple that wants to go smoke peyote and take you in the middle of the desert and freaking like run around with just you and them and like lay in their lingerie and kiss in the dust. Like, I'm sure that couple exists. And they want to pay Henry Martin's $25,000 to go hang out with them. Good luck reproducing that result. Like,
I would say if you are trying to do that, it's a super tight market, and then you are competing with Stanton, and you're competing with Henry, and you're competing with top tier people that are already there, already established.
You're talking. We'll add this customer. I'll add you this high-end luxury customer who doesn't care about weddings but wants an amazing film.
Yeah,
that's this little tiny group of people, and these people are apparently rich.
Yeah,
so they're rich, but they love art, but they also want a wedding film.
Yeah,
which is just like it's such a small amount of people.
Yep.
It's not a normal sales, which is why we just don't talk about it. Because, yeah, every once in a while you'll find this person. That's the person who calls us about that DC wedding.
We would say that is a niche, and we're not into a niche podcast. Well, I guess we are, because wedding filmmaking is small enough of a niche. Small enough of a niche, yeah.
Well, why make it more niche is my thing.
Yeah. So anyways, let's talk about all these three different tiers that we've kind of gone through and kind of recap. Like, if we're in this market, what are we doing to generate more leads?
Because this is about lead generation.
Right.
So if you're in, and like I said, we're kind of skipping the Craigslist people, but they exist, and you can go on Craigslist if you want to get more leads for Craigslist.
Yeah.
But I would say if you're in that barn, country club wedding, I would say like first tier that we're talking about today, for us, of course, referrals. Of course, client referrals, that's a big one. Vendor referrals can be a big one. But in general, we think the Knot and a lot of these paid lead sources work really well. Instagram can work as well. We've had success we haven't done one in a very long time, but we had success at wedding shows, just places where you can get in front of people who are shopping.
Yep. I definitely agree that the paid marketing is a great place to be. We should do like a separate podcast or video on, how to set yourself up and some tips that, I've seen success in because we've done it. We've booked plenty of weddings, hundreds of thousands of dollars on these sites. So definitely paying for a little bit of marketing, even if it's just like on Instagram. Guys.
Facebook ad, yeah.
Facebook ad. Wherever your people are, pay a little bit of money, even if you're not making, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars.
I would just say, think about $200 per closed lead.
Sure.
And that is a good budget. Say you want to do 25 weddings, spending like $2,000,
yep.
$3,000-4,000 wouldn't be crazy.
Yep. And then the other thing, like Jason said, is developing your referral base. So digging a little bit deeper there, I think in this world, guys, like how easy is it to be an advocate to a photographer on a wedding day? That honestly, if you're easy to get along with, you're already 2 steps ahead of most videographers in your field. Yes. Like getting
especially at that price point.
Aim to get photographer referrals. If you're not doing that, if you're making this photographer's life a living hell, you're just giving away your most valuable lead source. We already talked about how valuable your referrals are. Photographers literally built our business.
And also who cares if they're jerks or I work with photographers all the time who are firing flash off every 5 seconds, ruining all my shots. And when I have a private conversation with my team, I say, these people are going to ruin our shots. This is how we have to shoot today. To the person, how you doing? Yeah. Oh, you're amazing. Because I know they're high end in our area. They get paid a lot of money. The planner doesn't give a flip if they're firing flash all day. They're going to care if that person doesn't like me, though.
Yes. There's no win at that point. We just delivered a wedding, and it was like they were in this beautiful room, like beautiful natural light, this like estate in Massachusetts. It's this beautiful, like creamy light. It's awesome looking. And the photographer's firing off flash, and we're just like, hey, there's literally no way we can get around of it. You know what? That photographer loves us. It's all good because I'm gonna get referrals out of it. And honestly,
it's a business.
The planner or the bride and groom are probably not even gonna notice. So, but anyways, also in this group, vendor referrals. A lot of these country clubs are maybe a little bit more old school. They probably have a vendor list.
Yeah, a vendor list.
So getting on that vendor list, how do you do that, Jared? How do you get on these vendor lists? Well, don't be an asshole, first of all. If you already take that step of not being an asshole, then you're likely,
You're probably
already
10 steps above most wedding filmmakers.
Guys, photographers hate videographers.
For good reason.
For good reason, because literally you ruin their shots. And so stop.
Terrible communication skills.
When I talk about like raising all boats, this is a little bit what I mean. It's not just about raising prices. It's about raising the overall experience that videographers are bringing to the table. So I would say that just that will get you liked by everyone who's around you. And by the way, the photographer will also talk to the venue and if the photographer is on that vendor list, be like, I like working with this person. That goes a long way. So just being likable, guys, is a big step. Getting on those lists. Also, giving deliverables to these people for their social media is huge. If you only are shooting 10 weddings a year, there's no excuse for you not to be creating vertical content for these people that they can put out on, Friday of that week. That's the first thing you should be aiming to tackle, in my opinion, because you're just going to create that client and vendor referral list. So that's that area. That's probably what I would start focusing on.
That's a good training for getting to that next level, which is like,
sure.
How can I play nice with others? That's all about your professional network.
Yeah.
So I would say when I think about that group, I do think it's all about having like really well organized offerings on your website. So this person's coming from whatever paid source you have, their cousin suggested you, all the places they come. And when they hit your site, before they become a lead, before they fill that form out, a lot of them are going to be looking at your prices, and they're going to be looking at your packages and others too. They're probably on 3 or 4 other filmmakers' websites. And so you can win or lose leads based on how effective you are at communicating, what am I going to get? If I buy this, how many films do I get? How long are they? Do you have examples? Like, this is a group of people that really appreciates having whatever it is that they're going to get very easy to understand. So when they get on the phone with you, if no one's ever asking you a question like, what did this mean? Oh, what about adding drone? Like, they're not asking you any of the questions that help you propel this conversation forward. You probably have not communicated very clearly with them. Like, a luxury client might be like, like they almost never talk to us about deliverables.
That's probably true. Yeah.
Like, these people want to know, what am I going to get? Sure. Do I get a 60-minute film, a 10-minute film, a 2-minute film? Sure. I want this, I want that. So like, communicating deliverables is really important to these people. And it's really the difference between, for some of them, filling your form out or not.
So let's talk about higher end weddings. Okay, so let's talk about high-end weddings, because that's, I think, where a lot of people are trying to make that transition.
Or they're there already.
The country club wedding to the luxury wedding. Or, they're there already. I think this is where referrals just go that much farther. I think it's not necessarily going to be something that everyone is going to go on the knot.com, and they're not going to be trying to, book you through there. So I think in general, we really lean on our referrals here. A lot of these venues, if you get to this point, they're probably not going to have a vendor list, at least something that they're giving out to all their clients.
Well, because
they're going to be saying it to them in a consultation, like, hey, if they ask, hey, do you have any videographers? Oh, get a hold of Stop Go Love. We have that at
Here's why they don't go
venues.
As far in this market, too. Yeah. Venue referrals don't go as far in this market because many of them are working with planners at this point. Mm-hmm. So if you're getting married at the Four Seasons, you might get, we love Gabby at the Four Seasons, One Dalton. She's amazing, but oftentimes she's not the decision maker. Mm-hmm. She's working with the planner.
Yes.
And so technically we do get some referrals from Gabby herself. When they don't have a planner, that does happen sometimes. But in general, these higher end venues, whether it be a 5-star hotel or just high-end kind of places, there's such a mix of planners and just direct to the venue themselves that it's not good enough to only get on the venue's list. Mm-hmm. because that means you actually won't get the best weddings that are there.
Yeah.
Because the best weddings at the Four Seasons or the Mountaintop Inn or wherever you want to shoot, the best weddings have someone doing amazing florals. Mm-hmm. That's the best for your portfolio. They're the most high-paying clients.
Yep.
And so, yeah, you can't, maybe on the early market when you're first starting out, if you're on the country club's vendor list, that might be as far as that couple ever goes. Mm-hmm. Who works here? Oh, this guy? Okay, great. This point, it's a different game. So you got to be kind of everywhere. This is actually, like, in terms of selling, I think the hardest group of people, like, you have to do a lot. You have to be in a lot of places.
That's exactly what I was going to say. It's the full package tier, right? You have to have a good Instagram, I think. Mm-hmm. Like, because the planner's going to look at that and be like, why do they only have 125 followers? I can't refer this to my client. They're too new, or what does that say? Like, and planners are looking for that stuff. And you know what? A lot of planners have been around for a long time, like 10, 15, 20 years. So they know the game a lot better than you. So you have to be the whole package. You have to show like, hey, I have experience and I'm smart. I think, but at the end of the day, you have to have the whole package here. Branding. I would probably say, in this tier, it's not completely dead that you would get a paid lead here. We book a lot of, I just booked an $8,000 wedding here from theknot.com. So anyone who says the Knot does not pay or have high-end brides, I would challenge that all day long because I book a lot of them.
Yeah, we book a ton of $5,000 plus weddings from the Knot all the time.
Right.
So, and that might be region specific, and we do have a certain strategy, which
Sure.
we can talk about another time. But in general, there are paid leads to be had in this market, but also there's a lot of referrals, and then it's just you kind of got to be everywhere. You got to do everything. So, so a planner calls you in this marketplace. That's one sales call. A couple calls you, Jared, in this marketplace. How is that kind of call going? That might be different than maybe the budget couple.
First of all, I'm not keeping track of how long I'm on the phone with them. I don't care how many times I have to email them. Like, I'm giving them a lot of my time and effort. In that kind of lower tier, I'm kind of like take it or leave it with some people. I'm like, if they start asking a lot of questions, honestly, it starts annoying me. And I'm like, hey, look, if you have a lot of COVID questions, I'm like, pretty much you're a huge red flag and I don't care. I'm not going to be talking to you for very long because you scare me because you think that you can just cancel your wedding. But if I'm working with a planner and she has a lot of COVID questions, I'm like, let me dive in and answer your questions.
Because it's going to be a win.
And most of the time, I know that the planner doesn't care as much as the planner cares about informing her couple because the couple cares, So just equipping the planner with doing, a good job of conveying my services to them. The whole value is I'm getting a relationship with this planner. That is everything. So
they're the only person who you can sell 3 weddings a year to. You can't sell it to the couples.
Yeah, exactly. And also over the course of a lifetime, these contacts can be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars.
We worked with some people 20, 30 weddings.
Sure.
Some planners, so many weddings. And,
So that's, I think a combo kind of tier, a combo of ways that you can get it, but really focusing on your relationships is that tier. And that's why I think this kind of level takes years to build up. Those kind of relationships. It might be something where you just click with a planner, you get to work with them once, and you're able to, go from that country club wedding to a high-end wedding because you worked with a planner. But how many chances do you get to work with a planner if you're working at a country club wedding? Probably not a lot. You probably have to work your way up, get some paid leads, get to a super nice venue, and then there's a planner there you've never worked with. They're asking you a lot of questions. It might be new to you that they're asking you a lot of questions. They're going to ask you about your drone insurance, your COI, just getting back to the planner fast and proving that, hey, I know how to be here. I'm a professional. That's where you have to live. That is now your job.
Yeah,
you can't get annoyed at these planners, guys.
No.
They can be really annoying. Planners can be annoying. And how many questions they're going to ask you? They're going to ask you what kind of food you want a year and a half ahead of time. You're like,
and then they won't even give it to you.
And then they won't give it to you. There's a lot of things, that is annoying. The planner is going to ask you, how many people are you going to have their day of? They're never going to, they're just doing due diligence. Make it super easy to book you there. That is now your job.
Yeah.
So.
The negative side here is sometimes you got to talk to the planner, the couple's parents.
Yep.
This is a market that like you can honestly destroy your competition just by talking to people and being communicative. So you can see it as a negative, like, oh, I got to talk to these people. Just know that a lot of your competitors won't.
Yeah.
A lot of them will screw up here with communication. The last thing is the luxury market.
Which will probably be pretty short.
Yeah, because we're not experts at all. But I can speak from not just my experience, but the experience of many of the people I know very well, asking them a lot of questions here. And so I can tell you what we know. A, this is, if the planner doesn't like you, you're probably not getting booked.
In a lot of cases, I mean, the planner is the only person that's booking you.
Pretty much.
If if you're charging 10 grand plus, I think 95% of the time you're working with the planner exclusively. You might not even talk to the bride and groom before the wedding.
Yeah, and many of you will. Like I said, there's always like the artsy-fartsy guy who made a film, like some crazy weird film, and they find a couple who just values what they do at that price point. So that exists. You might be able to get into that market where you're such a unique product that you're working with couples who are willing to spend 12 grand on your film, and you're the highest paid thing in their wedding and whatever. We're talking about a business which requires lots and lots of people and repeatable processes. And for us, what a repeatable process here is, we've just started going to Engage, which is high-end planners event, but figuring out how do I get around people who have the clients I want, which is what we always do. Whenever we try to get into a market, we say, where are those clients? How do they make decisions? This market, the clients make decisions, and the client's really the planner, pretty much. They make decisions based on, do they like you? How does it make them look to book you? Like exclusivity. Of course, the product that you have does matter. There's a lot of things in there, though, like the exclusivity and the trust factor need to be there.
Yep.
Versus like down on the other thing, it's like if you have a good product and the person likes you, that might be good enough. Here, you could have a good product, they could like you, and then they're like, yeah, but you're not like big enough. Mm-hmm. You can't necessarily work in this
Or
market.
you don't charge enough.
You don't charge enough.
There's a lot of things.
Or you don't have I don't want to send my couple you, and they look at you, and then they look at Henry Martin's, and they're like, this guy has way more followers. He's charging a lot more money. What the heck is wrong with that guy?
Yeah.
Right? You would never really have that conversation outside of this market. Mm-hmm. So what we do know is you have to get around the planners. They have to like you. And it's all about building trust. It's all about building trust. And that means if you happen to work a wedding, you might work a wedding where you're not necessarily the high-end luxury vendor, but the planner is a high-end luxury planner and the couple just didn't really care about filmmaking. In our experience, that's been how we've been working our way into the luxury market. Is we have a few opportunities a year to work on these events, and when we do, we try to kill it. We try to build a portfolio that looks luxury. We try to present luxury on our branding. But we also I'm not just looking at the event the day of, I'm looking at the planner's Instagram, and I'm like, oh, this person does a lot of destination. Oh, they work in this, they did this huge mega wedding. Mm-hmm. They did this. So I'm like, this is my way into luxury. Yep. This designer, this planner, this photographer.
Everything that I have gathered and having conversations with planners and being a part of workshops with planners is, they do want to provide their client with options. They're going to provide them with a $40,000 videographer, a $20,000 videographer, and a $10,000 videographer sometimes. And sometimes the client will be like, yeah, like I just need this, pretty basic. Sometimes they reach top shelf. So I think that's a way that you can break in. They don't want you to be too cheap. So how do you find that out? I think is a question is like, I think if you have a good relationship with a high-end planner, obviously ask them, be like, hey, I want to do more of these types of weddings. These are my packages. Is that too low? In what case would you pick my film?
We ask planners all the time.
Alex Douglas, yeah. And frankly, I think having a candid conversation with your planners that way is a way to gain trust, so they can be helpful to you. Because I think a lot of planners themselves are trying to work their way up and get more weddings, and they want to work with people that are hungry. So be hungry. So speaking of which, I actually have a lead that I have to talk on the phone with. So let's wrap this shit up, huh?
Yeah. So hopefully this was helpful to you, because we were just kind of brain dumping on really a little bit sales kind of funnel things, which is just, you need a sales funnel. And it needs to be a lot bigger at the top than it is at the bottom where you're actually closing the lead. I think hopefully some of you guys have come to the conclusion that like, geez, I need more leads and maybe I should consider a couple of different things. Hopefully also you've kind of thought through who am I talking to? And I do want to be really clear on one thing. Luxury is not necessarily better. It's just about building the right business that's good for you. The good thing about any market is like there's an opportunity to make a lot of money in all of them. You just might have to think in different ways. Like I said, we look at this in a lot of different ways. We don't really consider our Huxley leads to be better than our Merriman leads. We just have a different process for them all.
Yep.
We spend less time making a Merriman film. That's why it costs less money.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, I'm happy to get both.
Guys, hopefully this episode has been great for you and has inspired you to take a look at what your lead generation is doing for you. Follow the Wedding Film School Facebook group to see all the different conversations that we're having right now. Follow us on Instagram because that's where we're putting out a lot of content, announcements, all that kind of fun stuff as well. And follow us on YouTube because that's where we're going to be producing a lot of behind the scenes content as well as gear reviews, all that fun stuff. And keep a tuned ear, as Jay said earlier, to find out more about Wedding Film School in Vegas coming up the end of February, beginning of March. WPPI, be there. We'll see you then.